Well, welcome everyone. I'm so glad you could join me today in my little slideshow. Today we mark the 24 Hours of Reality Truth in Action weekend. And this is a weekend where the Climate Reality Project is giving presentations about climate justice all over the world. And so this presentation is one of those. And our theme is One Global Truth, One Planet United in Action. And so for more information about 24 Hours of Reality, you can go to 24hoursofreality.org. My name is Don Stouter, and I was trained by Al Gore and his climate reality team to be a climate leader just this past year. And the presentation I'm going to give to you today embodies some of those slides that Al Gore is famous for, along with a little bit of my own story. And my story starts with my particular reason for having a connection to the earth, for climate justice being so important. For a lot of people, this is a different reason. For some folks, it's going to be, I want to leave a cleaner environment for my grandkids. For some folks, it's going to be, I want less people to have asthma, or I want our air to be cleaner in our cities. Whatever it happens to be, for me, it's because I find a real sense of the holy in nature. And so this slide sort of depicts that very well for me. Nature is my religion, and the earth is my temple. It was only 1968, not that long ago, that we first got pictures like this, that we could first see this little blue marble that was our planet in space. And that's really when the contemporary movement for environmental justice began. And it turns out to be way more fragile than we thought it was. And for me, this is a Gaia. This is the kind of one huge living organism of which we're all a part. And so obviously, if one part of it is sick, then the whole of it is sick. So we're going to ask today, must we change, can we change, and will we change? And we'll start out with, must we change? And that answer seems pretty straightforward. Here's another picture of the Earth with the sun going down behind it. And you can see this very small, very thin blue atmosphere. And so our atmosphere turns out to be this really very small, fragile coating that encircles our planet and has a very specific job. But the problem is that we have poisoned it to the degree that its specific job is becoming dysfunctional. And the reason it is, of course, is that every day, every 24 hours, we are sending up 152 million tons of man-made global warming pollution into that little shell that I just showed you in the previous picture. And the reason why this is a big deal is the basics of global warming. And you know, this is science you can learn in the 5th or 6th grade. The sun shines down on the earth. Our atmosphere is supposed to hold some of that in an appropriate balance to keep our weather balanced and human existence balanced. And then it's supposed to let some of that out. The problem is when we put more CO2 in the atmosphere, it holds more of that heat in. So that's really all this is, right? Imagine that this is a parked car in the summer in the sun. All of that heat stays in the car because it has nowhere to go. And that's exactly what we're doing with our planet on obviously a much, much larger scale. We know the science behind global warming, and we also know what causes it, and all the things you see here on the screen, a variety of things: coal mining, permafrost thawing, coal plants, fertilization, crop burning, oil production, air transport, etc., etc. But of course, by far, is the burning of fossil fuels, and that has happened since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution in the 1920s and has continued to go up and up and up. And what else has gone up and up and up are average temperatures, and that's exactly what you would expect in a climate, in an atmosphere that continues to warm. 19 of the 20 hottest years on record have occurred since the year 2001, and I'm sure it will shock nobody to know that the last 5 years have been the hottest. 2020 is on record to be the hottest year ever. It's a shot here in my hometown of Palm Springs, well, not my hometown, my adopted hometown, of a tourist taking a picture of a 125-degree day. Now, people might say, oh, it's Palm Springs, that's the way their summers are. This isn't the way our summers are. Days over 120 degrees are few and far between, and they've been increasing and increasing and increasing every year for the last 10 years or so. This past August was Palm Springs' hottest August on record. While we heat up the atmosphere, the air, of course, a whole lot of that CO2 goes into the ocean and warms it too. So as you can see, both at the surface and down deep, the water has been warming up, and about half of this increase has occurred in less than the last 20 years. The problem with warming oceans is warming oceans make bigger storms. These are a couple of storms I'm going to show you from our 2020 season that hasn't even ended yet. These are both taken from the International Space Station, and they just get bigger and meaner. And of course, they're created by the kinds of things that we learned in the 7th grade, the hydrological cycle, evaporation, precipitation, and then water returns to the sea. The problem is evaporation. As the earth warms, as the water warms, there's more of that. So there's more precipitation, so more flooding. And then the water returns to the sea, causing all kinds of damage to the land on its way, as well as flooding. It's an interesting picture, I thought, of a guy with a mask on because we're in the middle of a pandemic as well as a flood for he and his child. The other thing this weather tends to cause is more extreme events. This is a microburst, and I've seen a video of this particular microburst, and the water's coming down so hard that it actually bounces off the ground up to 10 feet in the air. And so that same extra heat that evaporates more water from the ocean, that causes bigger downpours and floods, also pulls moisture even more quickly from the soil, and that causes longer and deeper droughts. This is a lake bed in Texas. This was taken in 2020. Of course, hotter years, as we get more and more of those, we also get more fires because our burnable land gets drier and drier. This fire is literally right across the street from me about 6 or 8 weeks ago. Here in the Palm Springs area, this is the Apple Fire. Happening right now as I tape this message are the fires up in wine country. This is that Napa Valley iconic sign that you see in movies and everybody wants to do a selfie with, and right behind it they're doing an airdrop of fire retardant. So these extreme events get more extreme and more frequent, whether that be extreme temperatures, droughts, fires, floods, mudslides, or storms. Glaciers. That's 1935, and this is 2013. Now, Greenland, we talk about a lot in terms of melting ice mass, but it's one of many. Both of our poles now have significant melting of ice. And this, of course, brings up water levels around the world and places a lot of people and a lot of real estate in danger. And if you don't believe me, just go visit Miami Beach.
Just where that green fence is, it's like,
And so even on a nice day, it can flood in Miami Beach because of higher than normal tides. The top 10 cities at risk from sea level rise in 2070, Miami's at the top of that list. New York and Newark are also on it. Top 10 cities at risk from just sea level rise are our own American cities. Miami is also on that list. This is by population at risk. The other one was by value of real estate. Of course, the Department of Defense for a long, long time has been saying that climate change is a national security issue and how it will lead to food and water shortages, pandemic disease, disputes over refugees, and natural disasters in regions across the globe. Well, there have been plenty of those since they issued this statement in 2014. One of the other things that we know is how sensitive crops are. We're discovering that some simply can't handle the kind of heat that we're exposing them to. It's also a medical emergency for a variety of different reasons, not the least of which is that tropical diseases that usually hang out around the equator are now going further north and further south. And this is a little bit alarming. I mean, of course, Zika virus now is nearly all over the world. That should just be a tropical disease. West Nile, Chagos, things like that. Their areas have expanded significantly, mostly because little critters like this are now able to live in warmer regions that are more to the north and more to the south of the equator. Not to mention, about 50% of all land-based species will be lost in this century, either through a habitat loss or change or a variety of things that are due to climate change. I've just mentioned a couple of things on this list. Here comes the biggest one. It's obviously the number one threat to our global economy. And so the next question is, our first question is, must we change? And the answer obviously is yes. And the next question is, can we change? And this is where I'm going to shift over to some really good news. Everything we need, we have right now. We don't need new inventions. We don't need new technology. We don't need smarter people. We have everything we need right now. We have an enormous amount of wind capacity that continues to grow and grow and grow and grow. We have significant wind capacity such that it could supply electricity consumption for the whole world 40 times over. How about solar? We're way ahead of where we thought we would be on solar as well. We've exceeded that goal, that original 2010 goal, by quite a bit, and here in 2020 by almost 125%. Map looks the same as wind. The installations go up and up and up, and the cost of those solar cell modules gets lower and lower and lower. So this is why now solar is such an affordable way to do power. We can take that small initial cost and make power actually available in places where they've never had it before very easily and very quickly. Now Chile wants to do power in a big way. Look at what they're doing. So even countries that aren't particularly wealthy can use this as a significant way to generate power in a clean and sustainable way. And of course, enough solar energy reaches the Earth every single hour to fill all of our energy needs for a year. Storage capacity has gone up and up and up and is projected to go up even more. And part of that is because the improvements we're making in our ability to store solar energy. LED lights are almost 95% of the entire lighting market. So people are willing to make big, big changes, right? Almost every car company makes an electric car now. The reason for that is that people want to buy them. And so of course we can change. Of course we can change. Everything we need to do so is there right now. We just have to have the will. So will we change? Well, we did a Paris Agreement in 2015. There were ones before that, then have been a few after, but we set a very big goal to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions by mid-century. Our current presidential administration wants to withdraw from that, but the truth of that is that they can't actually do so until the day after the 2020 presidential election. So we have something to say about whether or not we will join the rest of the world in trying to achieve this goal. Certainly the people want to achieve this goal here and all over the world. They say it with their votes, they say it with their feet, and they say it with the kind of products they buy. So what I want to ask you to do today is to join with those folks who use their voices in a variety of ways, be it at a protest, or be it online, or be it talking to their friends, or be it doing things like I'm doing today, and they use their votes to vote for people who are going to make sure that we fight climate change and use their own choices in their personal lives to help fight the climate crisis. So use your voice, use your vote, and use your choices, and speak truth to power like your world depends on it, because you know what? This blue marble absolutely depends on it. This is a picture of me at the Salton Sea, which is in Southern California, near where I live in Palm Springs. And for me, it really articulates what I mean when I say, for me, the something bigger in my world is this beautiful planet we live on. It's nature. It's this amazing place that we call Earth, that we call home. And it's much bigger than me. It's much bigger than all of us. But together we can fight together and make sure that it stays around long enough for generations that follow us to enjoy. It's a little follow-up if you want to take some next steps. Rent an inconvenient sequel, Truth to Power, which is a great movie, and read Al Gore's book, Truth to Power. It'll give you a lot of idea about how you can learn the science and find your voice and help solve the climate crisis. So thank you for listening today and for being a part of this conversation today. And I truly hope that you've learned something, and I hope you'll tell your friends, and I hope you'll make good choices with what you do and with your votes and with your conscience. And so go in peace, and thank you again for joining me today.